So I think a common difficulty people experience when spending time with a person with profound intellectual and multiple disabilities is almost like a mismatch of time. Like, if you're somebody who has intellectual capacity, you probably use a good deal of that worrying about things that haven't happened or might happen. I mean, maybe you don't, but most of you with intellectual capacity I know, maybe that just says something about my friends, but you spend a lot of your intellectual capacity sort of agitating over things that they're not. It's not even just that they're not in the present, they might never be. You're occupying time that doesn't even exist, or you're going back over things that have happened, so you're agitating the past, or you're remembering stuff that happened before, or looking forward to something that's happening in the future. And so not very much of your being is in the present moment, and to different degrees for different people. But quite often with people with profound and multiple learning disabilities, their being is almost wholly in the present moment. And so to spend time with them, it's like a form of time travel. And it's like, two tunes being played to a different beat. How do you sync them up? If one's really fast, if your life is typically run to a rave rhythm and theirs is more a Gregorian chant, how do you meet across those time zones? And when you sit there and think, well, that looks boring, like they're not doing anything, that's partly your brain calling for I want the busyness, I want the doing, I want the next thing. And if you stop and think about it, actually the invitation to be in the present moment, which is something I've mumbled about before in places, is potentially a really valuable one. There is a lot to be gained from spending time with people with profound multiple learning disabilities. It's not a one-way thing. It's not something done for them. It's something we do together, and it benefits both parties. So I think seeing it as that invitation and then figuring out how to do it. So sometimes it's just noticing, actually, this is what's being asked of me, is to be here with you now. And there's a relief in that, or a freedom in that, like it's okay, I am just allowed to just be here, and that counts. I'm doing the right thing by just being here. Sometimes it can be that although you want to be there with them, you also have to remember that you got to catch the bus in a minute, or that you've got the next round of meds to be done in a minute. You have to be doing the doing whilst also doing the being, and it's very difficult to do the doing and do the being at the same time. And so then it becomes about, well, how do I create a tether point between those time zones? And different people do it in different ways. Sometimes it is just that you can kind of keep a mental check to tune in again, to touch back to that time zone. Sometimes people find that they can do it in physical ways. So I was talking to a parent, and she said, like, if we're at the doctor's surgery, or if I get a phone call when I'm at home, people come around, she said, I will hold his hand, because that touch connection, it's like she felt his time through that touch connection. Like there was part of her being with her in his time as she deals with all the things going on in her time. So yeah, that first question is boring, being with people with profound multiple learning disabilities because they don't do anything. Partly a reframing of thinking about what that being with them is about. Is it about doing activities? Is being with somebody about doing activities with someone? Or is it about jumping those kind of time zones that we live in? And what might I get out of jumping that time zone? That's one thought that I had. But there are other things. I can sort of feel them rattling around my head as I watch the duff telly that is meant to stop things from rattling around in my head, that there are other answers to that question, and it's definitely a question that's worth continuing to ask. So thank you to the person today who asked it.